Not everyone in the media was buying the Jussie Smollett story from the start. There were skeptics, especially reporters in Chicago. Still, when the Empire actor said he'd been racially attacked, it set off a firestorm of reaction from Twitter to politicians to the news media. TMZ was first to break the story.
Jussie Smollett from Empire was the victim of a brutal, heinous hate crime in Chicago.
While details of the January 29th attack were bizarre, Chicago police took it seriously.
An account that Chicago police have said has been consistent. He hasn't changed his story.
But from the start, there were doubts. How did the assailants know him? Why would they throw bleach, the MAGA hats, a delayed 911 call, and a rope still around his neck when police arrived at his apartment?
Matt, is any of this confirmed?
Well, Dana, this disturbing story is developing right now.
At the same time, Twitter went wild with outrage, and heartfelt messages rained in.
From celebrities like John Legend and Ariana Grande to former Vice President Joe Biden.
But after the arrest of two Nigerian men, more questions surfaced. Smollett then appeared with ABC's Robin Roberts to double down.
Listen, if I tell the truth, then that's it, because it's the truth. Mm-hmm. Then it became a thing of like, oh, how can you doubt that? Like, how do you not believe that? It's the truth.
But ABC was not buying it hook, line, and sinker.
A lot of questions have been raised as well.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of questions.
And other news outlets proceeded with caution.
Our bosses were advising to pump the brakes a little bit because there were some things already that didn't add up.
Now we know nothing added up. The hate letter, the attack, the racial slurs, the MAGA hats. Something Fox's Sean Hannity took as yet another assault on the president and conservatives.
According to the mainstream media, all Trump supporters are racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic.
But that's not it. It was as simple as Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson said.
The accusations within this phony attack received national attention for weeks. Celebrities, news commentators, and even presidential candidates weighed in on something that was choreographed by an actor.
Suckers for a story that was too good to be true. And as we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Callie, one of the elements of that was too good to be true was the MAGA hats, which is something that set off a red flag with a number of people. I got a text from an old colleague of ours that night. The story came out saying, MAGA hats, this story just stinks. I don't believe it from day one.
Well, I keep a list of all kinds of racial incidents that have happened since President Trump came into office so that when I get into conversations, I have something to say. Here it is documented. We know that the FBI has said that hate crimes are documented. So I initially did not think some of the stuff was off because this is the atmosphere within. These are the realities. When I started to feel a little uncomfortable about it, you know what really pushed me over the edge thinking, no, he wouldn't do this. He has a history of supporting these causes. He's black and gay himself. Robin Roberts is black and gay. This cuts me to the core that he would take her down with his stuff. Come on. I just couldn't. I thought, all right, well, it's got to be, he really must be telling the truth if he's going to sit down with her and do this. This is really horrible.
She didn't press him, but she
didn't have to press him. The fact that he gave the interview to her, to me, is the
but I thought she had an arched eyebrow for the whole thing.
But that's on her. I'm saying, I'm looking at how to assess what it was. I just want to say this. Media and journalism, I don't need to tell this group, two different groups. Lots of media said plenty of stuff. Journalists, really, I can't think of a journalist that came out of the box saying, we have to do, no journalists.
I agree.
So let's be clear about who was saying this and fomenting this from the beginning.
Yeah, ever since 1981, when Charles Stewart jumped off the
89
the Tobin Bridge.
Actually, it was 93 that he jumped. 90. He was, that was okay.
Early in January of 90.
90, because I had just been named news director. 90.
Right. Okay, Blade, we've resolved that. Let's see what we can achieve when we work together.
Yes.
Ever since then, I don't believe any sensationalized crime story with all sorts of implications right off the bat.
And you said that 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago.
Right, okay, so I'm saying it again. I'm sorry to be redundant. And I think, hopefully, most journalists practice equal skepticism. One thing about this whole mess that didn't surprise me but amazed me was the rush to commit credibility suicide on Twitter. some journalists, but more celebrities, everybody virtue signaling. Oh, what a detestable crime this was, the way it was described. Let me hop on Twitter and start preaching. You don't tweet. Just don't tweet. That should be our new national motto.
That's right. I think much of the media was appropriately skeptical. Not everybody, but much of it. I think that there were aspects of this story that seemed off from the beginning. I'll tell you what actually turned me around the other way. February 14th, when the two people were arrested and identified as persons of interest, I started saying, gee, maybe this is a real story. But that's actually when it really started to completely unravel. And I'm sorry, there was another point I wanted to make that has flown out of my head.
It'll come to you, Dan.
Well, so when I think about, there are a lot of troubling things about this case, but the one thing that really stands out from a journalism standpoint is how the general public out there looks at us now and says, we can manipulate them. So whether it's journalism or media, they know that there are certain buttons. You talk about the MAGA hat or you talk about the noose around the neck. If I include that in a story, people are going to run with it and help me achieve my agenda. And that's troubling. They sort of figured out the secret code to get the attention. So that bothers me about this case, and amazing that someone in such a high-profile position would have done that. The other thing I'll point out is I do agree that most media organizations were responsible in their coverage. However, what happens is you're covering lawmakers who are saying things, taking his side, right? And so when people sit back and say, oh, well, they did a story on this, they didn't really take sides, but they covered people who took sides on it. And so, in a way, you played along with this scam.
There were some people in Chicago who had good sources on this and were reporting on from the very beginning that I think law enforcement was leaking them stuff saying, we got another angle on this.
And I have to say that in his personal history, there was nothing. You know, I'm a pattern and practice person. No pattern, ever. So, you know, it threw off a lot of people. Right.